Morning guys and welcome back to the channel. San Martin have just sent me their very latest release. It is a Seiko NH34 powered GMT, but this one looks to be fairly original in design, and I know most of you guys have been crying out for San Martin to produce more original looking watches. So with this one, I'm not going to hang around. I'm heading straight over to the Lightbox to unbox it and share with you my first impressions. Now, for those of you not that familiar with San Martin watches, when you order one of their watches from the official store on AliExpress, you'll get the tools you need to adjust the length of the bracelet. You'll also get a circular user manual and a circular plastic warranty card, which should be filled in. The reason these are circular is because they used to put them inside of some larger plastic tubs along with the watches. But they've recently changed to these leather travel cases. They look far better. They feel much nicer quality, and yeah, they're sort of reusable, aren't they? So that is how your watch should arrive if you receive one of their watches. And this is the watch they have sent me to review. It is the black ceramic bezel insert version. So there's two versions. The other one has a brushed steel bezel insert. I much prefer the look of this one. I like the contrasting color in that bezel, and yeah, they've sent me this watch for free, which is why you will have seen the includes paid promotion icon in the top left hand corner, and the links in the video description will be affiliate links. They'll take you to AliExpress, and anything you buy will result in this channel earning some commission. And don't forget guys, the next big AliExpress sale starts on the 12th of June, so yeah, not long to go now. Right, I'm going to get the plastic off, resize it. I'll be back in a mo. Right, and here it is. I have removed all the plastic, resized it for my roughly average sized wrist, and put some power into the NH34 automatic movement. It's definitely a touch smaller than I was expecting, and actually there's a slight resemblance to their SN0004, I believe it is. Their sort of smaller retro-inspired 38-39mm dive watch, which has proven to be incredibly popular. They've made a number of variations of that watch. I think it's their best-selling watch ever. And this looks to be, yeah, really quite similar, actually, although there are some fairly obvious differences, which I will run through in a moment. But yeah, as you would expect, I've looked it over, and the finishing, the steel finishing, looks to be incredible. For those of you not familiar with San Martin watches, I consider them to be the very best brand available on AliExpress. Their steel finishing is comparable with watches costing 5, 6, 7 times as much as these watches cost. Yeah, they have mastered the art of steel finishing for sure. And this one is no different. Yeah, the steel finishing looks incredible. But let's get into this bezel first, because it is a GMT watch, so it shouldn't have a unidirectional diver's bezel. It should have a 24-click bi-directional bezel. Are you ready? 1, 2, yeah, it looks like it does. Well, it's certainly 24-click, and it is a bi-directional bezel. Fantastic. What about the alignment? Yeah, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? The indentations where it basically locks into place are incredibly strong. It's very smooth. You have to use quite a lot of force to get it out of its position, but then it glides to the next one, and I think you can hear it clicking. Let me bring it closer to the microphone. Yeah, it's nice. The bezel action is good, and yeah, the alignment is fantastic. One of the other big improvements that this watch has over some of their other watches is the on-the-fly adjustment clasp. They're using this clasp more and more now with their watches, and it's beautifully smooth. They've engineered it really, really nicely. This part just glides in. You don't need to press anything. You just press this button underneath when you want to release it back out. And yeah, the clicks, again, really nice and crisp and defined. Yeah, beautiful. So we are off to a good start. Now I just want to quickly talk about some of the edges and corners on their watches, because I know some people, when they've received San Martin watches in the past, they have felt that the steel finishing is perhaps a touch too crisp, and some of the corners have been perhaps a little bit too sharp. I know San Martin are aware of this feedback, and they're trying to soften some of the corners of the steel, but without losing that sort of crisp super defined finish, and I can report that I'm not feeling anything on this watch that feels like it might be an offending corner or edge. So yeah, that's also good to know. So again, if you're not familiar with San Martin watches, on the whole, their specifications are always, well, very, very good. They tend to leave no stones unturned. So double domed sapphire crystal with AR coating, box crystal, so it does sit above the bezel. Solid stainless steel throughout, 316L stainless steel, so solid end links, solid links. Screw pins, a beautifully finished bracelet and clasp, applied logo on the clasp. Yeah, really, really nice finishing on their clasps these days. Screw down case back, screw down crown, signed crown, 200 meters of water resistance. I think this watch has an enamel dial by the looks of it, and I've mentioned quite a few times now that enamel dials aren't just your basic dials. There's a bit more that goes into producing enamel dials, and that's why you get that sort of glossy, reflective appearance on this dial, which matches actually the polished ceramic bezel insert on this watch really, really nicely. And if I zoom into the watch, you can see everything a little bit more clearly. Very nicely applied lume filled indices. The hands seem to be nicely finished. You can also see that blue AR coating on the crystal, and applied logo. The print seems nice and crisp. The date complication is centered very nicely. It's all looking very good, isn't it? And interestingly, you've got two bezels on this watch. You've got a brushed steel bezel, which has the 24-hour markers on it for the GMT function. And then you have a rotating bezel, which sort of looks like a diver's bezel. It's a sort of timing bezel. And that has, or that is the ceramic bezel insert portion. So yeah, interestingly, two bezels. And while I'm zoomed in, I'm going to film the loom, so I'll let the camera run for 5 minutes. We'll see how much it has degraded over those 5 minutes, and then at the end of it, we'll know whether or not it's any good. But I suspect it's going to be pretty good, isn't it? San Martin watches, on the whole, have pretty decent looms. So yeah, let's wait and see. Right, the 5 minutes are up and the loom is still very, very visible. It's not the best I've ever seen, but it's definitely above average. It's what I would expect from San Martin. Right, let's wrap it up with a wrist shot and a wrist roll. Here it is on my roughly average sized wrist. The more I look at it, the more I am seeing that smaller retro-inspired dive watch, which isn't a bad thing because that watch has sold incredibly well. I'm pretty sure it's one of, if not their best selling watch. It looks like they've used the same case, crown, bracelet, and even bezel, although obviously the bezel insert is different because this has a sort of a dual bezel. And yeah, this clasp is a fairly new addition to their watches. I like it. I just feel it's a touch deep for me. I'm left-handed, so I write with my left hand and I wear my watches on my left wrist. So I do tend to prefer slightly flatter, more discreet clasps, but I do appreciate the engineering that's gone into this clasp. It's incredible, and I know many, many people will be loving this clasp. And yeah, I like the choice of hands as well. People have also been crying out for San Martin to mix it up a little bit when it comes to the style of hands that they use on their watches. So I think this one could be a popular one. I think one thing that's going to hold it back is the price. I know it's good value for money when you look at the quality and the specifications, but something just holds people back from spending, well, over $250 on watches like this on AliExpress. If this was a micro brand watch, it would sell incredibly well. But yeah, $300 out of the sale. Fingers crossed it will be sub $250 in the sale. If it is, I think it could end up being probably one of their best selling GMTs. I'm not going to commit to saying it will be their best selling GMT because they have produced another GMT watch with this movement inside it, which has sold unbelievably well. But yeah, fingers crossed it is a popular one because we want them to make even more original-ish looking watches, don't we? Right, guys, let me know in the comment section what you think.